My brothers and sisters of Burkina Faso, Mali, Niger, of Africa and the world, today I stand before you not as an accused in the dark halls of The Hague, not as a supplicant begging for permission from foreign powers, but as a free African leader speaking for free African nations. We have taken a decision that some call radical, some call dangerous, but for us it is simply inevitable. Together with Mali and Niger, Burkina Faso has left the International Criminal Court. We have walked out of an institution that pretended to be a temple of universal justice, but in reality functioned as a weapon of selective punishment. We walked out because our dignity is not negotiable and our sovereignty is not for sale. We walked out because we refuse to allow judges in Europe to decide who among Africans is a criminal and who is not, while their own leaders escape accountability. For more than 20 years, the International Criminal Court has been presented as an impartial tribunal above politics. For more than 20 years, it was sold to Africans as a beacon of hope after decades of dictatorship and war. We believed, we signed, we ratified, we gave this court our trust and our cooperation. And what did we receive in return? A hunting ground, a courtroom where African faces became trophies, where African leaders were paraded to satisfy a moral theater for foreign audiences, where African wars were treated as spectacles while Western wars were treated as strategy. We watched as George Bush ordered the invasion of Iraq and no warrant was issued. We watched as Tony Blair and Nicolas Sarkozy destabilized Libya and no summons arrived. We watched as French troops killed civilians in colonial operations and no prosecutor dared to open a file. Yet when African presidents acted, when African armies defended their soil, indictments rained down like bullets. Is that justice, or is that colonialism with new robes? The International Criminal Court is not a temple of justice. It is a neo-colonial instrument dressed in the language of law. It was constructed on African signatures, but not African priorities. Built on our hopes, but never on our terms. We were invited to sign, to ratify, to believe. While the very architects of the system kept their own hands clean, the United States refused to ratify the Rome Statute. Russia refused. China refused. These great powers stood outside the gates yet encouraged us to enter. Britain and France ratified, yes. But the moment their own conduct abroad was questioned, silence fell. Cases were shelved, files were never opened, their crimes became invisible. Our crimes became headlines. For more than 2 decades, the pattern never changed. Look at the record. Look at the first 30 people indicted by this so-called international court. Almost every single one of them African. Presidents, generals, rebels, ministers, all African. Does that look like universality? Does that resemble blind justice? Or does it look like a hunt? A safari of humiliation where Africans are trophies displayed for the world? We were told this court would end impunity. But whose impunity ended? Did it touch George Bush for Iraq? Did it touch Tony Blair for the lies that destroyed Libya? Did it touch Nicolas Sarkozy for unleashing chaos in the Sahel? Did it touch French commanders accused of killing civilians in Mali or the Central African Republic? Not once. Not ever. And yet, when an African leader fights a war on his own soil, when an African army tries to defend its villages from militants armed with weapons spilled from Western interventions, the court in The Hague moves with speed. Investigations open, indictments flow, warrants fly across the world. Is that justice or is that colonialism reborn in black robes? We are no longer game for hunters. We are not animals to be tracked across deserts and jungles and dragged into courtrooms thousands of kilometers away. We are nations. We are peoples. We are sovereign. We are no longer the accused in a drama written elsewhere. We will no longer lend our names, our signatures, and our dignity to a system that spares the strong and cages the weak. If justice is to be truly universal, it must be even-handed. It must reach Washington and Paris as easily as it reaches Bamako and Ouagadougou. Until that day comes, we will not be the prey of a court that hunts only in Africa. Some will say we are afraid of justice. They will say these soldiers seized power and now run from the law. But listen carefully, we are not running from justice. We are running from hypocrisy. We are not shielding ourselves from accountability. We are shielding our people from humiliation. In Burkina Faso, in Mali, in Niger, our soldiers are not mercenaries. They are our brothers, our sons, our cousins. They fight with bare hands against insurgents. They die in ambushes created by Western interventions. And then those same Western powers point at us and whisper to The Hague, investigate them, indict them, criminalize them for defending their homes. I ask you, who should be on trial? The soldier from Kaya defending his village, or the politician from Paris who dropped bombs on Libya and opened the gates of hell? We did not wake up one morning and decide to withdraw. This decision is the fruit of years of betrayal. We remember the African hopes of 2002. We remember how Uganda, the DRC, the Central African Republic became test laboratories for a court that never touched Europe. We remember Sudan's Omar al-Bashir indicted while Bush and Blair walked free. We remember Kenya's leaders dragged through years of legal limbo while Western generals in Afghanistan received medals. We remember Burundi withdrawing in 2016 and being demonized. We remember South Africa announcing its exit and then retreating under pressure. We remember summit after summit of the African Union where leaders begged the ICC to address double standards and were ignored. We have learned the lesson. Today the lesson becomes action. Our withdrawal is not isolation, it is liberation. It is a breath of air after years of suffocation, a declaration to our own people that sovereignty is not a slogan carved into marble, but a living force that must be defended. When I speak of sovereignty, I am not speaking of a scrap of cloth fluttering on a mast or a plaque on a building in New York. A flag without power is just fabric. A seat at the United Nations without autonomy is just furniture. True sovereignty is not ceremony, it is substance. Sovereignty is the power to decide our own destiny without foreign approval. It is the right to define our own justice without waiting for a European prosecutor to tell us which of our sons is a hero and which is a criminal. It is the right to defend our soldiers, our brothers, our children, who bleed in the dust of the Sahel. Not to have them dragged to courtrooms thousands of kilometers away by people who never walked our soil. It is the power to protect our citizens from dictates issued in offices they will never see. That is sovereignty. That is what we are reclaiming. We know what happens when sovereignty is surrendered. We have lived through the consequences. Look at Libya, a country whose government opened its doors to Western partnership, whose weapons were dismantled under Western supervision, whose leader was eliminated in a NATO war disguised as humanitarian intervention. They promised democracy, but they delivered chaos. Libya's arsenals spilled into our deserts, arming the very insurgents who now kill our people. That is the price of surrendering sovereignty. Look at Iraq, a nation invaded on a lie, told that foreign troops would bring freedom and order. They brought mass death and a broken state. 2 decades later, the Iraqi people are still paying for that so-called liberation. Look at Afghanistan. 20 years of occupation, trillions of dollars spent, thousands of lives lost, only for foreign troops to flee in the night and hand power back to those they had vowed to defeat. They promised women's rights, reconstruction, stability. They left only ruins and memories of drone strikes. These are not distant stories for us. They are warnings written in fire. They remind us that when you hand over your sovereignty in the name of security or legitimacy, you hand over your future. When you allow others to judge your soldiers, dictate your policies, design your courts, you become an experiment in someone else's laboratory. You become a case study, a headline, a lesson in a Western university. We refuse to be the next theater of experiments. Our people have suffered too much to become another footnote in someone else's report. We will not trade our dignity for aid, nor our independence for applause. By withdrawing from the ICC, we are telling our people your destiny is in your own hands. By reclaiming sovereignty, we are declaring that never again will our countries be laboratories for policies drafted elsewhere. We will make our mistakes, but they will be our mistakes. We will find our justice, but it will be our justice. This is not isolation. It is the first step toward genuine self-determination. Let me speak plainly about the Sahel. This is not Europe. This is a land where insurgents burn villages in the night, where children disappear into armed groups, where farmers fear planting their crops. Here, war is not a documentary. It is daily life. When elected governments failed to protect the people, soldiers took responsibility. That is how we came to power, not out of luxury, but out of war. And now those same soldiers are told by Europe that their actions will be judged in a courtroom thousands of kilometers away. We reject that logic. No foreign judge will criminalize our fight for survival. Some in the West ask, if not the ICC, then what? I answer them: African justice. Not imported justice, not justice written in Dutch or French or English, but justice rooted in African soil. Long before the ICC, our societies had their own systems: councils of elders, community mediation, restorative practices, Islamic courts, all aimed not only at punishing, but at repairing, reconciling, and healing. We do not claim perfection. We claim ownership. We claim the right to adapt these traditions to modern times, to create hybrid courts where professional judges sit alongside respected elders, where truth-telling commissions document atrocities in our languages, where reparations rebuild villages instead of sending paperwork to The Hague. This is the justice we seek. This is the justice we will build. Look at Rwanda's Gacaca courts after 1994, millions of cases heard at the community level. Imperfect, yes, but faster, closer, more inclusive than the distant tribunal in Arusha. Look at Ghana's chiefs mediating disputes without endless litigation. Look at our own Islamic traditions of accountability. We are heirs to these methods. Why should we discard them for a court that has never protected us? Why should we outsource our conscience to Europe? Our withdrawal is also a signal to Africa. For too long, this continent has been told that law and morality flow from the north, that Europe writes the rules and Africa obeys. Today we say no. We say Africa can write its own rules, can judge its own leaders, can heal its own wounds. We say the blood of an African child is not cheaper than the blood of a European child, and the crimes of a European leader are not lighter than the crimes of an African leader. We demand one standard. If the West cannot deliver it, we will deliver it ourselves. This decision has consequences. We know the threats. Aid may be cut, visas may be restricted, propaganda may be unleashed. We know they will call us dictators, rebels, criminals. But we also know that nothing is more dangerous than submission to injustice. Our people did not fight colonialism to trade one master for another. We will endure hardship rather than live on our knees. And we are not alone. What we are doing is not the act of a solitary nation crying in the wilderness. It is part of a wider awakening. The alliance of Sahel states is not just a military pact signed on paper. It is a living declaration of self-reliance born from blood loss and hard lessons. It is 3 sovereign nations saying with one voice, we will no longer outsource our security, our dignity, or our future. We have expelled foreign troops who, despite their promises and budgets, failed year after year to bring security to our villages and borders. We thanked them, but we also told them enough. We will not be a permanent base, a training ground, or a testing ground for armies that treat our countries as a chessboard. At the same time, we have opened our doors to partners who respect our sovereignty, who treat us as equals, who understand that cooperation means listening, not commanding. Through this alliance, we are pooling our intelligence, our soldiers, our economies, and our voices in international forums. We are training our own forces to defend our people, investing in our industries, and creating our own standards of justice and governance. This is the foundation of a new independence. Not just the absence of colonial troops, but the presence of African capacity, and our vision extends beyond the Sahel. We are building new alliances across Africa, from the Gulf of Guinea to the Horn, and beyond Africa with nations in Asia, Latin America, and the global South who have known the same humiliations we have known. We are learning from one another, trading with one another, speaking together in a language of dignity. So let no one say we are retreating from the world. We are not retreating. We are redefining our place in it. We are moving from the back row to the table. We are replacing dependency with partnership, submission with sovereignty, and silence with a voice that carries. This is what the alliance of Sahel states represents: a new axis of self-determination in a world that can no longer be ruled by a few capitals. I call on the African Union. Hear the voice of the Sahel. This is not a rebellion against law. This is a rebellion for dignity. Join us in creating an African Court of Sovereign Justice under the AU, with judges from across the continent, combining modern legal standards with our traditions of reconciliation. Show the world that justice does not need to flow from Europe to be legitimate. I call on the youth of Africa. Do not believe the narrative that your continent cannot govern itself. Do not believe that only Europe can deliver fairness. Justice is not a European export. It is a human necessity. It belongs to you as much as to anyone. Demand it, shape it, own it. Our withdrawal from the ICC does not mean your suffering is forgotten. On the contrary, it means we will no longer let your pain be paraded in foreign courts. It means justice will be brought closer to you. In your language, in your community, in your lifetime. It means we will seek not only punishment, but also healing, rebuilding, and reintegration. It means we will strive to repair what has been broken, not merely label who is guilty. And I speak also to the West: do not mistake our decision for hatred. We do not hate Europe. We do not hate America. We hate hypocrisy. We hate double standards. We hate being treated as perpetual minors in a global system we did not design. If you truly believe in universal justice, then submit yourselves to it. Sign the Rome Statute. Accept the jurisdiction of the court you created. Indict your own leaders when they commit crimes abroad. Until then, do not lecture us about accountability. The world order is changing. Multipolarity is not a slogan. It is a fact. Africa will no longer be a chessboard where others play. Africa will be a player, a voice, a judge of itself. Our withdrawal from the ICC is not the end of justice. It is the beginning of African justice. It is not a retreat into impunity. It is a march into responsibility. Our responsibility, not yours. The path will be difficult. Building our own mechanisms will take time, resources, and courage. Mistakes will be made, but better mistakes of our own than chains of others. Better an imperfect African court than a perfect European prison. Better justice rooted in our soil than justice imposed from afar. So I ask every African leader, if the ICC has never touched Western leaders, why do we still trust it? If justice is truly universal, why are we always the ones in the dock? If not now, when will Africa stand up? Our exit from the ICC is a line in the sand. On one side lies submission to a system that spares the strong and cages the weak. On the other side lies the hard work of building our own institutions. We have chosen the second. We invite you to join us. We are writing a new script. In the old script, Africa was the accused, Europe the judge, The Hague the stage. In the new script, Africa is the author, Africa is the actor, Africa is the judge of its own fate. Some will laugh, some will predict failure. Let them. They laughed at independence. They predicted our nations would collapse without colonial rule. Yet we are still here. And we will still be here when their predictions fail again. Brothers and sisters, this is a historic moment. The world may not yet understand it, but history will. The day will come when our children will read in their textbooks that, on this day the Sahel stood up and said enough. Enough of double standards, enough of selective justice, enough of neo-colonial control disguised as law. We have not ended the pursuit of justice. We have reclaimed its ownership. We have not broken with morality. We have broken with hypocrisy. We have not abandoned victims. We have brought them home. Africa's future will not be decided in The Hague. It will be decided in Ouagadougou, in Bamako, in Niamey, in Lagos, in Addis Ababa, in every village and town where our people live. Justice will not be delivered to us. We will deliver it ourselves. This is our message and our decision. We, the peoples and governments of Burkina Faso, Mali and Niger, have walked out of the International Criminal Court. We have declared it a neo-colonial tool. We have chosen sovereignty over subservience, dignity over humiliation, courage over fear. To those who stand with us, we say thank you. To those who oppose us, we say watch us. To our people, we say rise with us. The Sahel is no longer a hunting ground. The Sahel is a voice. The Sahel is a judge. The Sahel is free. Thank you.